We continue now at the top of Daf Tzadi Dalet and Aleph and Meseches Eruvin. This is Eruvin Daf 94a. We're continuing now with Shmuel's opinion in a situation where a wall falls down between two chatzeros on Shabbos, and Shmuel is lenient and says, Zeh metaltel ad ikar mechitza, v'zeh metaltel ad ikar mechitza. Each person can carry up to where the mechitza actually was. Rashi says, Zeh metaltel ad ikar mechitza k'demei ikara damin holvo hutru. Like we said before, once Shabbos began beheter, the fact that it fell down is not going to be a problem. Uv'chlei abayis kamar Shmuel. Now Shmuel here is talking about the vessels that are in the house. The ibish hashavsu b'chatzer. Now if we're talking about vessels that started off Shabbos in the chatzer, afilu mechatzer l'chatzer nami, that you can move from one chatzer to another chatzer, according to Shmuel. To Shmuel, who damar halacha Rabbi Shimon va'afilu irva kalachas liatzma. Shmuel was the one who said that we're lenient like Rabbi Shimon, even when they did make independent Eruvin. Lo gazar misham mani debatim. He did not make a gezerah because you might accidentally bring vessels out of the house. V'afagav dahashta havalu chatzer achas kishenafa lo asrilu batim dashari lafukim v'batim lachatzer hol v'oter l'miksa Shabbos. Again, even though now they've all been, so to speak, merged together because the wall fell down, it's not going to be a problem for that. We're talking specifically about the klei habayis. Those you're allowed to move in the chutzner only until the place where the mechitza was. And the Gemara says, V'had Rav, and Rav's opinion, again, Rav was the one that was strict in this case, La beferish itmar ela michlole itmar. He didn't say this beferish, we just see it from the following story. The Rav Shmuel have a yosvi ba'ahu chotzer. Rav and Shmuel were sitting in a particular chotzer, nafal guda de beini, and the wall that was in the middle fell down. Amar luhu Shmuel said, Shkulu glima negidu ba. He said, take a garment, Rashi says, Shkulu glima negidu. Kechu talus ufarsu osa. Take a talus and spread it. Sham over there, Lios mechitza, let it be a mechitza. He said, let's just put up a talus as a mechitza for the rest of Shabbos. Adrinu Rav liape. And Rav turned away, and Rashi says, Adrinu Rav liape, to kosavar asr l'taltalon hasadan shabasocha. He said it's asr to move these. You can't even move the talus, because again, Rav held that there's a problem. Once the wall falls down, the two chatzeros asr one another. So Amar Luhu Shmuel, so then Shmuel said to them, Ikapit Abba, if Abba is strict about this, Shkulu v'katruba. Rashi says, Shkulu hamayne v'katruba, take the hat and tie it, or take the belt and tie it rather. Kechu avneito v'katruba esatalas l'mechitza. Take his belt and tie it to create the mechitza for the talis. So Shmuel said it almost like a joke. Okay, if Rav doesn't like the solution, we're going to use his own belt to help us tie this wall. But the Gemara now says, okay, fine. So we see from Rav that he holds it's a problem when the wall falls down. But according to Shmuel, what do we need even a mechitza for at all? He said when the wall falls down, each chutzner can carry to where the wall was. You don't need to put up something new. So the Gemara says, Shmuel Avid l'tzniusa bi'alma. Shmuel was just doing this for privacy reasons. He wasn't putting up a real mechitza here to allow you to carry. He was just to have privacy between the two chatzeros, put up this talis. Gemara says, V'Rav, and what about Rav? He's svirale de aser. If he held it was aser, leimale. Why didn't he say something? Why is he just turning away? So the Gemara says, Asrei de Shmuel have it. Well, it was the locale of Shmuel, so Rav didn't want to paskin against Shmuel. Gemara says, Yachi, if so, my time generally happy. Why did he turn away? He shouldn't turn away. He should accept that Shmuel is the authority in this area. Gemara says, the lo name Ruka Shmuel svirale. People shouldn't think that Rav really held like Shmuel. Rav wanted to make it clear that he doesn't agree, but he wasn't going to protest in Shmuel's locale. And the Gemara continues with the Mishnah, Chatzer shenifritza l'Rishas Haravim. If you have a Chatzer that the wall falls down and it opens into a Rishas Haravim, Hamachnis mitochal l'Rishas HaYachid. O mi Rishas HaYachid l'socha. If you transfer something from Rishas HaYachid, from it to a Rishas HaYachid, or from Rishas HaYachid to this Chatzer, Chayiv, you're Chayiv in this case, Divrei Rabbi Eliezer. That's Rabbi Eliezer's opinion. And Rashi over here says, Chatzer shenifritza l'Rishas Haravim bimilua, fully opens, fully exposed to Rishas Haravim. O yoser mi'aser, or there's a breach more than 10 amos, chayev the Rishos Haravim, who according to Rabbi Eliezer, the Chatzer, once it opens into Rishos Haravim, is considered a Rishos Haravim, of Gemara Kaboila. The Gemara will ask why that is the case, but in any case, Rabbi Eliezer holds it's a Rishos Haravim. That's why if you transfer from it to Rishos HaYachid, or from a Rishos HaYachid to it, it's going to be a Doraisa issue. The Chachamim say, mitochal Rishos Haravim, omer Rishos Haravim l'socha, from it to Rishos Haravim, or from a Rishos Haravim to it, Potter, you're going to be Potter in that case, Mivnei Shika Carmelis. It actually has the status of a Carmelis. It's no longer, that Chatzar is no longer a Rishus HaYachid, but it doesn't turn into a Rishus HaRabim either, it turns into a Carmelis. Rashi over here says, Potter, you're Potter if you transfer, Aval Mutter L'Chatzchila lo. Now, it's not Mutter L'Chatzchila to do this, Afilu Toch Arba Amos, even if you do it less than 4 Amos. Why? The Lav Rishus HaRabim hi Ela Carmelisi. Because it's not a Rishus HaRabim, it actually is a Carmelis. V'u Adenami mitochal Rishus HaYachid, the same thing to Rishus HaYachid. It's going to be a Carmelis, which is an Isser Midrabanan, but it's no Isser Midoraisa, and that's why it's going to be Potter according to the Chachamim. So the Gemara says, Rabbi Eliezer, Mishum, the Nivritol Rishus HaRabim, Havel Rishus HaRabim, because an area opens up into a Rishus HaRabim, it gets the status of a Rishus HaRabim. And the Gemara says, yes, that is indeed the case. Rabbi Eliezer Latayme, Rabbi Eliezer follows his opinion. Tanya, we learned in a Brisa, Rabbi Yehuda Omer Mishum Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Yehuda says in the name of Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbim Sheberu Derech Liatzman. If the Rabbim, if the public uses a certain derech, Ma Sheberu Beru, whatever they've chosen becomes like a Rishus HaRabim. Rashi over here says, Ma Sheberu Beru Ve'eno Rashai Lagodra. You can't close it up. Let's say there's a particular field, but they use it as a pathway. It can't be closed up. Alma Kanula, you see they acquire it, and the same thing is going to be true in our case as well. Once that wall falls down, it becomes a Rishus HaRabim. So the Gemara says, Ini, is that really a good comparison? V'amar Rav Gidol amar Rav. But Rav Gidol said in the name of Rav, that's talking about a particular case where there was a derech that became lost in that field. Rashi says, there was a path that went through for the public in that field. They just didn't know whether that path was on the north side of the field or the south side. So then now they're choosing. So that's where it works. But it doesn't work in all cases. So you can't apply that over here. And the Gemara says, maybe you'll say, no, that is the case over here as well. That there was a derech that got lost in this chatzar. Rashi explains. Maybe the case over here is that where the wall fell down, remember the case over here is you have a chatzar where the wall fell down. It's not clear where the wall was. The question really is, they're not cutting through the chatzar, but they're not sure where the Rishus HaRabim ends and the private domain begins. So they're extending a little bit into the Rishus HaYachid. And they're saying, oh, the Rishus HaRabim really goes until here. The Gemara right now is saying maybe what Rabbi Eliezer means, he doesn't mean the whole chatzar is the Rishus HaRabim. He means the area that the Rabim, where they think the Rishus HaRabim ends, that becomes Rishus HaRabim. That area where the mechitza fell, essentially that border area, she'elu oren alav, which people are now complaining about, arguing about whether it belongs to the Rishus HaRabim or not. So maybe you'll say that's the case over here, but that can't be. V'amar Rabbi Chanina, because Rabbi Chanina said, ad makom mechitza machlokes. It said until the area of the mechitza is a machlokes. In other words, what Rabbi Chanina was really saying was, Rashi says, demashma kola chatzar kula ad makom ha-mechitza hayu chachamim osan osa karmelis. The entire chatzar until the area of the wall the Chachamim said was a Carmelis. But in fact, everyone agrees that the area where the wall fell is Rishus HaRabim. That implies that the argument was about the rest of the field, the rest of the chatzar. Rabbi Eliezer says the whole chatzar is Rishus HaRabim, and the Chachamim say, well, up the area of the Mechitza, we admit that's a Rishus HaRabim. But the rest of the field, that's where we argue that that's a Carmelis. So Rabbi Chanina's statement is not going to fit with this particular answer. So the Gemara says, Eima al makom mechitza machlokas. Our first answer is, we can just change what Rabbi Chanina said. He didn't say until the mechitza is an argument. He said it's the area of the mechitza where there's an argument. That in fact is the issue. The area where the wall fell, according to Rabbi Eliezer, is a Rishus HaRabim, and according to the Chachamim, that area is a Carmelis, and that's the only area that they're really arguing about. Or we could give a different answer in terms of understanding Rabbi Eliezer. But Sidei Rishus HaRabim kamiflagi. They're actually having a machlokas about Sidei Rishus HaRabim, which the Gemara will elaborate what that means exactly. But it means the sides of Rishus HaRabim. The Rabbi Eliezer savar Sidei Rishus HaRabim ki Rishus HaRabim damu. Rabbi Eliezer holds the sides of a Rishus HaRabim are considered a Rishus HaRabim. The Rabbanan Savri Sidei Rishus HaRabim lav ki Rishus HaRabim damu. The Rabbanan say no, the sides of a Rishus HaRabim are not a Rishus HaRabim. So the Gemara says, if that's true, v'liflog b'tzidei rishus harabim. So why do they just argue by the sides of rishus harabim? Why do they have to come up with this case of a wall falling down? Bialma, just argue about regular, normal situation of tzidei rishus harabim. So the Gemara says no, because if ligu b'tzidei rishus harabim bialma, if they argued in general about tzidei rishus harabim, have amir, and then I would have said kipligi rabbanon oleo de Rebbe Eliezer. When do the rabbanon argue in Rebbe Eliezer and say it's not a rishus harabim? Hani mili heichadika chifufe. That's where they are chifufe, which Rashi will explain. Aval heichadeleka chifufe, but without the chifufe, ema module. Maybe the rabbanon admit. So we're trying to give you a chiddush in the rabbanon. You should know that the rabbanon argue it's never a rishus harabim, even in our situation. Kamash malon. That's what it comes to teach us, that the rabbanon don't only argue by a normal tzidei rishus harabim, they argue even over here. Rashi over here explains chifufe, which will also explain the tzidei rishus harabim. Hani mili heichadika chifufe. Stam tzidei rishus harabim iko chifufe. The normal situation of the sides of rishus harabim, it has chifufe. What does that mean? Noatzin yeseidos va'avonim gedolo samach lekosa. What they used to do is, the rishus harabim was surrounded on the sides by walls, and they would put poles and stones near those walls, shelo yaziku korono, so that the wagons would not damage the wall. So really, they used to place these things to protect the walls of the private properties that might be adjacent to the rishus harabim. The airspace that's between these stones and these pillars that are protecting the walls, that airspace is called tzidei rishus harabim. I might have thought the Rabbanan argue specifically there, because there you have these chifufe that are interrupting the traffic. That's not a rishus harabim. You can't carry from that area to rishus harabim. People can't even really go there because of all these stones and pillars. But over here, maybe they would admit. So that's why we have to have a machlokas specifically over here to show the machlokas applies over here as well. So the Gemara says still it doesn't make sense. It says the word mitocha. It says from it, from this chatzir. Rashi says v'mitocha l'rishus hayachid ka'amar Rebbe Elazar chayev. Rebbe Elazar says you're chayev if you transfer from the chatzir mitocha to rishus hayachid. Alma kula chatzir rishus harabim mashvile. Still, you see the whole chatzir is rishus harabim. Tzidei rishus harabim would only apply to the side of the chatzir. It wouldn't apply to the whole entire chatzir. But here it seems to be that Rebbe Eliezer applies the din of rishus harabim to the whole chatzir. So the Gemara answers, Aidi do Amar Rabbanon mitocha. Since the Rabbanon said mitocha, Amari unali mitocha, he responded with the same language as them. So he was simply saying to them, they had used the word mitocha, he used the word mitocha as well. So the Gemara says, Rabbanon, Amar Rabbi Eliezer tzidei rishus harabim umahadru le'inu mitocha. But the Rabbanon don't make sense then. If Rabbi Eliezer is just saying the sides are rishus harabim, why are the Rabbanon saying mitocha? Why do they use the word mitocha? We're arguing only about the side of this chatzir. So the Gemara says, Hachi ko'amri le'Rabbanon le'Rabbi Eliezer. Here's what the Rabbanon were saying to Rabbi Eliezer. Milo kamodis lon hecha detiltel mitocha l'rishus harabim u'mirishus harabim l'tocha depater. Don't you admit that from within the chatzir you're pater if you transfer to rishus harabim mivnei shi karmelis, because it's a karmelis. So tzidei nami loshna, the sides should be no different. That's why they use the word mitocha. For Rabbi Eliezer, and Rabbi Eliezer responded, Hasam lo kadarsi lo rabim. Within the chatzir, the rabim don't step over there, they don't walk over there. Hacha kadarsi lo rabim. But over here at the sides, near the rishus harabim, that's where people walk. And the Gemara continues with the Mishnah, Chatzir shenifritz al rishus harabim mishtei ruchaseha. Let's say have a chatzir that opens up to rishus harabim from both sides. Walls fall down on both sides, and it opens up into rishus harabim. V'chein bayis shenifritz mishtei ruchosav. Similar, a house on two sides, the walls fall down to rishus harabim. V'chein mavui, or you have a situation of an alleyway, shenatlu korosav, or the chayav, that the beams or the poles at the entrance fall down. Mutarim ba'oso Shabbos. That Shabbos, it's okay. Once Shabbos began beheter, you can continue with the heter throughout Shabbos. V'yasurim lasid lavo. But in future Shabbosos, you're going to have a problem. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda, that's Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. Rabbi Yossi says, Mutarin loso Shabbos, mutarin lasid lavo. If it's good this Shabbos, it should be good future Shabboses. V'masurin lasid lavo, and if it's a problem in future Shabboses, asurin loso Shabbos, it should be a problem for that Shabbos. The Gemara is going to explain Rabbi Yossi means to say a chumrah. Rabbi Yossi is saying, of course, if it's asur next Shabbos, it should be asur this Shabbos as well. He does not hold that just because it's mutter at the beginning of Shabbos, it should remain that way throughout Shabbos. So the Gemara asks, what exactly is the case how much of this wall fell down. Ilema be'eser, if it fell down, let's say just 10 amos, so in such a situation, what's the difference if one side falls down where it's a Pesach, because it's 10 amos? Falls down on two sides, you have two doorways. Who cares if it's 10 amos or less? That's a doorway, shouldn't pose any problem. Ela be'eser me'eser. So the case you're going to tell me is that it's more than 10 amos fell down, so it's not a door anymore, it's a breach. But then even if one side fell down, what does it need to fall from two sides? So the Gemara says, Amar Rav answers, Liolam b'eser. It fell down, it was only 10 amos. And the Gemara will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Tzadi Dalid Amud Beis.